Hi everyone. It's so lovely to be with you. It's just a fascinating and brilliant space, and I'm thrilled and honoured to be able to join you here today. I'm from a youth-focused co-creation agency called Latimer. And what we fundamentally believe is that brands, institutions, governments are better when they collaborate directly with young people. And so what does this mean? Well, we were described in a UK newspaper as moral madmen. Not literally mad, but as in the program about advertising in the 50s in America. And what this speaks to is that traditionally the way advertising is created is by groups of people, normally men, coming up with creative ideas, so-called creatives, developing products, services and marketing campaigns that then are distributed to us, the consumer, for us to consume. Well, we think this model is fundamentally flawed. That actually, if we democratise creativity, if we allow young people to co-create, to participate in the creation of products and services, we'll create products and services that truly resonate with the audience. And furthermore, by allowing young people to co-create and to collaborate, we can give those young people opportunities to develop their skills, to develop new training, and ultimately to provide employment opportunities for them. So, how did we come to believe in this? It was because of this place, Latimer Road, a place that, as you might have noticed, is the name of our company. And it was the young people that we met here that had inspired us to work in this way. And I want to share with you a bit of how we got there. So Latimer Road is in the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea. This is considered to be not just the richest place in the UK, but also in all of Europe. It's home to royalty, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, or Will and Kate to you and me. And it sort of embodies the sort of what you might think of as typical London place. It has these beautiful flower markets, antique spaces, leafy parks, and beautiful old Victorian terraces. And some of the people who live in this place are some of the richest and most powerful. In this street, not far away from Latimer Road, how much do you think this might go for? Well, it's one of the most expensive streets in the UK, average house prices of 38 million. And this area was brought to life by this film. Sounds like some of you know it, right? Notting Hill. So for those of you that don't, this was about a beautiful American actress. She arrives in London, she heads to Notting Hill, and she stumbles into this bookshop. And when she arrives in this bookshop, the owner is this bumbling, if desperately charming Englishman, English gent. Not a lot like me. And he had a very different accent to me, as you might have noticed. And what happens in the film, over the course of the film, this English gent, he takes this beautiful actress, he shows her the sights of Notting Hill, they go to the parks, they drink wine, they have cups of tea, and over the course of that film, they fall in love. And it's a beautiful story of romance and love that many of us might associate, and it sort of embodies the spirit of what people think Kensington and Chelsea is and what it looks like. But there's also a different story. There's a different story to this area that often doesn't get the exposure that it might require. And that is that from Latimer Road, if you look up, you'll see the Grenfell Tower. Now this is a place that just recently, in the last few weeks actually, tragically, over 80 people lost their lives in a fire. And it's in this area that is home to some of Britain's poorest. In fact, it's home to the bottom 10% most deprived communities in the UK. And this, despite the fact that it's side by side, literally street by street, next to the top 1% wealthiest people in the UK. So this tension, this huge divide between communities causes distrust and angst, and it's a great source of tension, particularly for some of the communities here. And so it was these people, it was this story that first provoked our interest. And it was through these guys, through this guy here, Lawrence, and his friends, that we came to understand what we wanted to do as a company. So Lawrence lives on the estates around Grenfell Tower. All of these people between the ages of 14 and 17, they were described by, in the UK we would call them NEETs. Some of you might know, and NEETs is this horrible acronym that stands for Not in Education, Employment or Training. It sort of sums up people who are outside of the system, who aren't involved in traditional ways of schooling or education. And that was the case for these guys. They were in pupil referral units. They'd been involved in the criminal justice system. They'd been involved in crime and drugs, and felt very much outside of this other perception of what Notting Hill is. And it was when they came to us and said, we want to tell our story. We want people to know the other side of Notting Hill. So that's what we did. They came to us and they came up with an idea for a film, and they called this film The Real Notting Hill, almost as the antithesis to what had come before. And in it, they wanted to do everything. They wanted to star in it. They would be the actors in this film, but they wouldn't just act. They wanted to be behind the camera too. They wanted to come up with the ideas for what this should be. They would write. They would come up with the costumes. They would come up with the locations. This despite the fact that they had no formal training. They weren't so-called creatives, but they had a passion, they had a lived experience, and they wanted to share that with people. So that's what we did. We worked together with these young people over a period of time, and we produced this film. And this film looked very different to the other Notting Hill that had come. This film talked about challenges with the police. It talked about issues they'd had with crime, with issues with housing, issues of poverty. But it also talked about friendship. It talked about camaraderie. And it talked about struggle and resilience in the face of that. And so when the film was finally complete, it was done, we all went away. But something quite strange happened. A major UK broadcaster picked up this film, Channel 4. It got nominated for a BAFTA. Suddenly, it vindicated this model that you can create great things with real people. And the byproduct of it is that these young people sort of reclaimed Notting Hill. They had expectations on the local authority. Their friends and other young people would come, and they would start to push and challenge local authority and other people to improve youth services for these young people. And so that gave birth to us and what we wanted to do as a company, which was exclusively to co-create directly with young people in everything we did. And so that group of co-creators, that group of young people that began with those 10, 12 people in West London, is now 60,000 co-creators spread across the world. And we've created numerous employment opportunities as a consequence. And we think the reason we've been able to do this is because there's been a change. And that change is that brands, institutions, government are starting to realise that particularly when engaging young people, if they try and design stuff, however much they beautifully craft it, however much they focus on creating the right paths and expecting young people to go with them on that journey, ultimately, young people will choose their own path. And the key is for us to collaborate and work alongside them to make sure that we all go on that journey together. The key for us is to embrace the crowd, is embrace the opportunity and power of all of us to come together to create beautiful and brilliant things. And we've seen this change happen. This is increasingly taking over various industries as more and more brands and institutions and NGOs are really signing up to this idea of co-creation and empowering young people to participate. We see it with brands like MTV, a brand that we work with, who have transformed the way broadcasters function. It's not just about them broadcasting and creating content and then young people picking it up. They're allowing young people to participate, to take control of MTV, to come up with their own creative ideas, to share it, and then those ideas end up on TV, just like the other stuff. Or products and services, brands like Lego, who instead of their innovation department being in a small office or a big office, if you're Lego, in their headquarters, their innovation department comes from their fans. It comes from all of us who can share, develop ideas, come up with suggestions of the sorts of products and services they should run, and then the best ones, and this is clearly one of them, this is a great idea, you should buy this, get made. They get made, and the people who participated in the creation of those products get a revenue share on the net profits of those things that are created. And it's happening in cities too. This incredible revolutionary idea that MaD have to create the first carbon-free city, the most sustainable city on the planet. Well, this is only possible if they allow citizens to participate in that. It's only possible if they get buy-in from the very people who are expected to live there. And they've recognised that to do that, they need to co-design that city directly with those people. And it's not just in products and services and brand campaigns that it's happening. This is also transforming social movements too. This is something we did with Nike Foundation, the brand Nike Foundation, and UNICEF, around the issue of female genital mutilation and honour-based violence, which affects girls and women in their thousands across the world. Well, we put this out to young people and invited young people to come up. How do we get the message across? How do we engage people on this issue? Well, they said that ultimately this is about freedom, or lack of freedom. So, they created the world's first Instagram documentary made up of 20-second clips about what freedom meant to them. They shared this online. They invited other people to join in this movement around what freedom meant. And as a consequence, pledges were signed. Thousands of pledges were signed by global leaders, NGOs and government to abolish the practice in our lifetime. Technology is also part of this, and it's fueling and accelerating the ability of young people to co-create together. There's lots of examples that are out there, but for us we use a thing called Bulb Share, which we've developed, and I struggle to say the name properly. Bulb is in light bulb, is in an idea. And what this is about is it's a mobile co-creation platform that allows young people from wherever they are in the world to connect with the brands, with the institutions, the NGOs, with the social issues that they care about, and develop ideas, develop insights, and ultimately try and solve the problems that we have and the problems that these brands have. The consequence of them participating in this is that every time they collaborate, they develop new skills, as you'd expect, but they also get opportunities to get training, accreditation with the brands and NGOs that they engage, and ultimately get paid and find employment opportunities through participating in this way. So we think there's this huge opportunity and there's this huge shift. We don't have to accept the stories that are told on our behalf. Like Lawrence and the Real Notting Hill, they told their own story. They crafted their own version of what their world looked like and what they wanted it to be perceived out by others. That actually, if we can embrace the power of creativity amongst groups, if we can harness the collective ingenuity of all of us, then we can shape our own environment, and ultimately we can shape our world. And I'd encourage all of you to do the same. Thank you.